Hi. Hi, I'm Chris Vinoy, and this is sort of a test run for weekly lunch and learns I'm going to be doing every Tuesday at noon Eastern going forward. And I'll have a link in the comments for this after we're done to where you can sign up for updates on that to follow along. Our first one of those will be tomorrow, and that'll be on Google Analytics goals. For today, well, first let me back up and reintroduce myself. My name is Chris Vinoy. I'm the founder of Axiomatic at getaxiomatic.com. And what I do for a living these days is I help small business owners and agencies make sense of their data, particularly website data, and particularly Google Analytics. And so I spend a lot of my time cleaning up people's Google Analytics accounts, cleaning up things like referral spam and multiple domain tracking and all that sort of stuff. The embarrassing confession I have to make is that while I spend my days cleaning up their things, my own account is an absolute mess. So what I thought I'd do today, as sort of this test run, is to take a few minutes and clean up my own account and let you guys follow along so you can see how you can clean up your own Google Analytics account and clean up things like referral spam, which, trust me, my account has a bunch, self-referrals, multiple domain tracking, and all that good stuff. And teach you some best practices around how to do all this filtering without hosing anything you didn't mean to. Okay, so let me see if I can figure out how to share my screen, and then we'll get going. Good thing there's nobody viewing this right now. Very good thing there's nobody viewing this. So let's see. Screen share. Perfect. This one, share. Okay. So this is my account, as you can see here. And this first screen, again, it's low traffic, it's early days. So the first place I typically look when I go into somebody's new account is I go to all traffic and I go to referrals, because this will very quickly tell you whether or not there are significant issues. So in this case, if we scroll down, we immediately see some very weird things. T.co, that's Twitter. This one, I don't know what it is, and we'll explore it here in a minute. This is referral spam. It's a particular type of referral spam. In this case, it's a misbehaved web crawler, where essentially they're doing marketing through Google Analytics. And so in this case, we'll take care of them in a minute, but I want to show you the other type. The other type of this that's interesting. The other type of this and how you can actually spot one quick way to sort of spot this sort of stuff. So if you do a secondary dimension of host name is essentially what address it is Google Analytics thinks this person is visiting. So if we look at the host name, that's not my domain. So this is and neither is this. Wow, that's weird. And then you'll see here, there are several here that are actually domains of mine. It's just I have several. I have gabench.com, axiomaticllc.com, getaxiomatic.com. This is a client documentation site, for instance, so on and so forth. Yeah. So we can see both sort of types of referral spam here. We have the ones that are bad crawlers, like Smalt is the most common one, and you'll see them a lot. Buttons for website.com is another one, and we'll take care of both of those with a filter here in a minute. And then there are these other ones that look kind of like this. So let's explore this one just a little bit more. So you get the referral path there. And then just for giggles, let's do a secondary dimension on language. Wow, I'm big in Russia, which is something you'll notice if we go back to audience and look at the overview. you'll see that Russia is my second most popular language, which is weird and generally a red flag. When you first log into your Google Analytics account and you go to audience, and if Russia is your second based one and you're not doing a lot of business in Russia, chances are you probably have the same sort of referral spam problem. So how do we clean this up? Well, first, let's talk about a best practice here. You'll notice the profile and view I'm in is all website data. This is completely unfiltered, unadulterated. This is the raw data Google Analytics has. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to admin, and we're going to create a new view. And we're going to call this one official view. And I happen to be in the great state of Indiana, so this will be Eastern time. So there's our new official view. And if we go back to reporting, just real quick, just to show you that, like, this is a brand new view. It's not going to have any sessions in it at all right now because we just created it. That's something to keep in mind when you're creating new views. They're not going to backfill with the other data you have. They will only collect data going forward. And I always recommend doing this sort of separate view so that you always have one view that you never touched, that's never been messed with, mucked around with, or anything like that. That way, if you goof something up in here and accidentally cut some extra people out, you always have the original data you can go back to and sort of look at. So in our official view, we're going to create some filters to get rid of these folks. So new filter. And if you haven't done filters before, actually, let's go back to this view. If you've never used Google Analytics filters before, this is essentially how you tell Google Analytics to ignore certain things. In this case, we're primarily going to be worried about referrals. So, like I mentioned before, we have two sorts of referral spam here. Add referrals by host name. And in this case, the predefined batches, you can exclude or include only, and then traffic from a particular ISP, traffic from particular IP addresses, which works well for sort of internal traffic filtering. If you happen to know what IP address your office is in, for instance, you can essentially set one up that'll be exclude from the IP addresses, and then you can either do a range or, you know, begin with, that sort of thing. That's what that really works pretty well for. Your other options are traffic to the subdirectories. So if you have a particular subdirectory of your site that you don't want to be tracked in your Google Analytics, maybe it's something internal, something like that. And you could also do traffic to the host name. So if I was in a situation where I only had one domain name, I could set this up with a predefined one and we'd be fine. And I could just do like include only, traffic to the host name, and then either begins with that contain. I could almost do with that contain, but I have two different ones. All right. So in this case, we're going to go custom. We're going to exclude. Actually, let's do include. Include host name. And then you get a filter pattern, which in this case means a regular expression. So in my case, it needs to either have GA bench in it or axiomatic in it. I'm keeping this one simple. You can get as wild as crazy as you'd like with this. If you're not familiar with regular expressions, I highly recommend rubular.com. This one's Ruby, but the syntax for regular expressions in Ruby are fairly similar to everywhere else. I'll leave that for another day where we'll get more into regular expressions in Google Analytics. But if you want to play around with it, I recommend Rubular. In any case, so in this particular case, include GA bench, axiomatic, case sensitive. We can try and verify this filter, but it's not going to give us anything because there's no traffic going to it right yet. But I assure you this will work. So what we're essentially doing here is we're saying if the referral of this, if the host name of this referral is, actually, if any view to this, if the host name or the domain name does not include GA bench, which is this site, real quick. This is one of my sites. And it does not include the word axiomatic, as in getaxiomatic.com. And most of my other ones also have axiomatic included in that. So if it isn't one of these two, does not include the word axiomatic or GA bench, then it's going to be ignored because we're telling it include only ones that match this. All right. So we'll save it real quick. So that takes care of one set of bad referrals, the ones that are done programmatically, and I'll talk more about this at a later date, but they're done without ever visiting your website at all. They just ping Google Analytics directly and pollute your referral stats. So the other one, the one where they actually did visit your website. So we're going to do another one. There are better ways to do this one. For instance, if you have access to the server, you could do it in HT access and just they never ever hit your site at all. In this case, we're also going to do custom because there's more than one. So we're going to exclude. In this case, we're going to do referral. And in this case, we want some alt or buttons for website. In this case, it's the same sort of thing. We're saying exclude. Don't ignore these people, essentially. If the referral is from Smalt or buttons for website, which are the two that we noticed there. Again, if you have access to the server, there are other resources out there that'll tell you how to do this at the server level, which means you wouldn't even see them in Google Analytics in the first place. So we'll save this one. So that should take care of our bad referrals, which again, we're not going to see right now because this one hasn't been doing anything. In fact, I would recommend, unlike me, if you set up your official view a little bit ahead of time so that you have some data in here to play with and you can actually see the effects of this as you move along. So if we go back to our referrals again real quick, let's see if we have anything else that needs cleaned up. Oh, we're in the wrong view. Yeah, let me switch views. All right, back to all website data. This one is actually a self-referral, I believe. Let me take a look. Pistachio is what I use for a lot of my client documentation sites. And in fact, this is actually my traffic going into there. So the way you kind of take care of those, if you want to count the traffic, but not necessarily the referral, which in this case seems appropriate, you do that under the referral exclusion list, which is under tracking info under the property level, then referral exclusion list. See, in this case, I already had a referral exclusion for one of my sites. So let's add one for. So that will no longer show up in referrals going forward. Again, with almost anything in Google Analytics. And it's a little nutty. Any changes you make, like for instance, if you set up a new goal, if you set up a new view, if you set up new filters, all that sort of thing, it's only going to take effect for the traffic you have going forward. It's not going to backfill. It's not going to back adjust any data that's already captured. So something to keep in mind. Back to reporting and back to referrals. What else do we have here? Here's another self-referral, gabench.com. That's, as we discussed earlier, is another one of my sites. So we'll add that one to the referral exclusion list as well. So gabench.com. Okay, cool. So now that we've got those cleaned up, I'm sorry, one funny thing I just noticed here with this one, which we already established was sort of bot spam, has a 17-minute average session duration. This is just an example of how these referral spammers, especially when you're at a fairly low traffic level, can really mess with your metrics. And it's probably, and also 0% new sessions. That's fun. And the reason, again, I'll talk about this more. The reason why is that they're sort of specifically crafted to be able to weed their way in there and figure out and get into your Google Analytics without actually hitting your site at all. Again, I'll talk about that more probably in a lunch and learn later. The other thing we can sort of keep an eye on, technology network. This will show you what sort of ISPs people are coming from. Technology network, it's very handy. Comcast Cable Communications. I'm willing to bet dollars to donuts. That is mostly me, because I don't believe I've set up any internal filters. Certainly not on this new view, I haven't. Okay, so or on that one. So let's switch to the show up in Google Analytics. It'd be nice if they sort of did this automatically, but they don't. And right now, today, I'm at my office, away from my office, at Lunch Fishers in Fishers, Indiana. So we'll do a separate filter when I get home for that one. So in this case, we can stick with predefined. So we will exclude traffic from the IP addresses. And if you're not sure what your IP address is, what's my IP.com? Oops, is not the right address. Hang on. You'd think I would know by now what this is. You could just do Google, my IP address. Boop. So if we go back to here, just plop that IP address in there. Again, if you were at a business where you have like a block of IPs, what you could do is you could take off this last bit, and then rather than equals to, you can do that begin with. And then anything that begins with that and then after, which is typically how these blocks work, will then be excluded. But in this case, I'm just going to exclude this one for now. All right, so there we just eliminated our internal traffic. So let's go back to reporting real quick. And we'll switch to our other view. Somewhere else I can look when I'm generally doing sort of audits for people. Kind of look at campaign tracking real quick just to see if anything weird's in there. In this case, this is all expected. May not look like it, but it is buffer automatically campaign stuff. I have my own little snippet that takes care of these two. Along with that one. So these are all to be expected. But there are cases, especially in sort of the paid area, where you will see campaigns for accounts that shouldn't be there, especially if you're going into somebody else's account or your own. If you accidentally have campaigns for different things running in the same AdWords account that you have linked, that could be very weird. In this case, I don't have AdWords hooked up to the, oh, I do. What do you know? No, I don't. Yeah, there you go. So I haven't linked these two accounts yet. That'll be a topic for another day. The other thing you sort of look at, and this is what tomorrow's talk will be about, is sort of goals. In this case, I do have goals set up. There are not very many of them, but we'll talk more about that tomorrow. So yeah, that pretty much takes care of your referrals. Those three filters will pretty much do the trick. Let me switch back to the official view. And we'll go to admin and filters. You can see what those were: bad referrals host name, bad referrals bots, and then internal traffic. That'll get rid of the bulk of weirdness that almost every account will have if you don't take the time to set this sort of stuff up. Let's see if there's anything else. I think that'll do it for today. Again, this was sort of a dry run to see how everything works. I hope you enjoyed it. And as always, you can find me at getaxiomatic.com and also at gabench.com. And so hope to see you tomorrow. That'll be at noon Eastern. And we'll go through Google Analytics goals and how you set all those up and everything else. I have one viewer right now. If you have any questions or anything, feel free to send them along. Otherwise, we'll hang things up for now and give you back the rest of your hopefully glorious Monday afternoon. Bye.